Hi, everyone. It is Heather with the Old Schoolhouse here for another Homeschool Live. And tonight I am here with Natalie Mack. She is an author, a speaker, and 22 years veteran military home educator with over 21 years of service to military homeschooling families and military homeschool support group leadership. She is known for her words of encouragement and advocacy for homeschooling, particularly during the journey from high school to college. Natalie is a mom of five, three college graduates, and one college junior and a 10th grader. She is a newly retired Navy chaplain spouse after
Yeah.
serving alongside her husband for 34 years of military service. Natalie, thank you so much for joining me tonight. How are you?
I am well, Heather. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
So I am so excited to chat with you tonight, Natalie. For those of you watching, you might have seen her. She has written articles in the Old Schoolhouse magazine, and we are just so thankful for her. And she is also a Schoolhouse ambassador, and we will talk a
Yeah.
little bit more about that throughout the evening. But I would love, before we dive into Schoolhouse Ambassador and what that is and how that affects your life, could you tell us about your personal homeschool style and how long you've been homeschooling?
Yes, so my personal style is eclectic, and we've been homeschooling 22 years. And so I say eclectic because over the years, you learn of more and more homeschooling styles. And with having five kids, different styles work with different children. And so we have used Charlotte Mason, we've used a lot of classical. We were even in classical conversations for 2 years in Virginia Beach. We were part of the foundation of classical conversations in Virginia Beach. And unit studies, and we've done online school, and it just varies, especially being a military homeschooler. We are moving so consistently every 2 or 3 years into different communities where resources are available and then they are not in another community. And so we've had to pivot. And so that's how I would totally define myself as eclectic in my homeschooling style.
I love that. I mean, and you have to be flexible, and with that lifestyle. And it's just wonderful that you were able to adapt.
Yes, yes. That's the name of the game with the military hospital. It is adapting, adjusting, right? Hurry up and wait and get orders, and then you have to get there quickly. So,
So you've been doing this for a few years, and
a few.
so I'm wondering if you could take those all those years and sum them up in three words. Are there three words you could use to describe homeschooling, maybe for new homeschooling moms or those who are just trying to grasp the concept of what is homeschooling?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Three words to describe. I will say, let me see, impactful. I will say, I want to say challenging, but in a good way. Not that, and I think challenges are not necessarily all bad. And I will say encouraging. And so impactful because being able to see the difference, and this is over a course of time with the five, and we've graduated four to college, to be able to see the difference that the homeschooling has made, how it has impacted the culture of our family,
Mm.
our bonding, our family relationships, that our children have been launched with a relationship with Christ, which is important for us. Um, the impact that I believe I've been able to make through truly grace of God and my husband is that, I see that. So I say impactful. It really can um, totally impact your family culture, your family bonding, family relationships. And then encouraging because you're able to see, wow, this is something that I can now help other homeschoolers, right? To be able to know they can do it and to be able to speak into their life through our experience of just kind of trial and error, but believing and trusting the process.
Mm.
And then challenging because it is a sacrifice of your own time. Um, and it's a sacrifice of, to some degree, your flesh, where you may want to use your time in a different way, but you made this commitment. to your family, to your children, right? To be there to educate them. And whatever journey and way God calls, whatever modality, right? Like we talked about Charlotte Mason, unit studies, unschooling, all of the different ways. But the challenging part is that you have to commit and you have to make this a priority, but it's a good challenge and it pulls from within you,
Mm.
and you find yourself being able to do more and more and to be able to give more and more. So those are the three words that come to mind with it, and it's been such a blessing in our life, and I'm just totally passionate about homeschooling and speaking into encouragement into other homeschooling families' lives is really something I'd really love to do.
And that is so needed. And because people are
Yeah.
looking for people like you who've already graduated kids. I mean, they are just, getting into the beginning stages of this and they want to hear
Yes.
these success stories.
Yes.
And, I love how you mentioned challenge. It's not easy, it is challenging,
Right.
but it's rewarding. And so I
It's
just love
rewarding,
that.
and it's so worth it. It's a challenge that is worth it. And
Yeah.
so that's the good part, right? I know people don't like to hear the word challenge, we shy away, but it's a worthy challenge for sure.
Right. And it can help those who might have doubts, going in, am I able to
Yeah.
do this? Is this really what I'm supposed to do? It'd be so much easier to send them on the yellow bus, but
Oh,
you
yes,
know.
yes. I remember saying, in the early years, out, being very transparent. Over 22 years, you've learned a lot. You've made mistakes and you've learned from them, right? And you're still always learning. And I remember in the early years, reaching having that day of frustration and feeling like, oh gosh, what have I committed to? But I had told our kids that when we transitioned, our oldest daughter was starting fourth grade. Our youngest daughter was starting second grade. They had been in a private Montessori school. And
Mm,
when we made the commitment as a family to pull out and to begin homeschooling, I remember they asked me, well, why? Because we really loved that little private Montessori school and everything seemed fine. But I just felt the calling upon my heart that this was something God was really calling our family to. And so I remember telling our kids, well, the answer to their why was, I really feel this is God calling us to do
mm.
this. So when you mentioned the school bus, it brought back a memory of when I would say to the kids, oh, I'm just going to put you on the school bus, right? In the early years, because I would get frustrated. And I tell families, getting frustrated, feeling overwhelmed, it doesn't mean to throw the towel in, it really doesn't. It just means you're experiencing overwhelm, and there's some things to do to get yourself back into a good space, right? But it doesn't mean you failed. It doesn't mean that you're not called to this, right? It doesn't mean that God can't equip you, because He definitely, we know He equips those He calls. And so, but my daughter, my oldest daughter, turned to me that day and said, but mommy, you said God called us
Yes,
to this.
yes. That's
And it's
right.
like it remembers. It feels like it was just yesterday. But so when you mentioned that school bus, it triggered me back to hearing my daughter's voice as a little girl saying, "But mommy, you
Oh,
said," and she believed me,
right.
right? And I had to stand on that because it was truth. It was truth. So
Wow.
yeah,
That's powerful.
yeah.
So, what have you learned from your homeschooling experience?
Personally, what have I learned? Oh gosh, is that I'm a work in progress. That's what I've learned, is that I am a work in progress. That, like I just mentioned, is that, not having a good day doesn't mean you're a failure, or my lack of knowledge in maybe a subject area does not mean that I'm not called to homeschool. Um, I've learned that, from this is my own personal opinion, that homeschooling is less about academics and more about family bonding, and that's not to move academics away from its rightful place. Obviously, our kids have been educated college bound. So I definitely feel that if that's the journey God has your children on, not that it has to be the one way, but if it is the journey, I'm all for academics. But I also feel like, wow, this is such an opportunity for our kids and family and us as mom and dad and children to really bond together and to get to know each other in a way that it just wasn't possible. There were not, when our children pre-homeschooling, there was not enough time in the day nor the weekend to really bond the way I felt God calling us to bond as a family. So, yeah.
So you have so many years of experience, like we mentioned, and so much expertise. And when I think of schoolhouse ambassadors, I think of people who are bringing all of their knowledge, wisdom, experience, expertise
Hmm.
to the
Hmm.
table
Hmm.
while using the resources from the old schoolhouse and schoolhouseteachers.com. How, well, before we get into how you do that, when you heard about the Schoolhouse Ambassadors program, why did you choose to become an ambassador?
Yeah. Well, that goes back many years. When I first started homeschooling, I went to a homeschool, a youth curriculum cell. Someone had in their home, actually, lots of homeschoolers, and I was just new to homeschooling. And someone had a binder for a three-ring thick binder full of the old schoolhouse, the magazine. And I remember that I purchased it. They were selling it for some small price, and I purchased it. And that I traveled, I think we still have it, to be honest, over all these transitions of military life. So fast forward to then I began to do articles and write articles for the Old Schoolhouse magazine. And I thought, wow, I'm now writing articles for the magazine that kept me whole and sane all those years in the early years, right? And then the opportunity to become a schoolhouse ambassador, I saw that and I thought, wow, now I can share what the old schoolhouse magazine as as a resource, what it has meant to me, schoolhouseteachers.com, just to share and encourage because that's just a passion I have to encourage. And I know the old schoolhouse is all about encouragement. So that's in short why I decided to become a schoolhouse ambassador.
I love that. I love hearing stories like that. That is so encouraging. That is so wonderful. So, can you tell us how the old schoolhouse helps you to reach new homeschoolers?
Yes. Okay. So the old schoolhouse helped me reach new homeschoolers in so many ways. Like, I mean, obviously um, through the magazine, the Facebook page, the resources that you have, the schoolhouse teachers. I am still new as an ambassador. I mean, I'm literally, I don't even know, maybe about 2 months in. And so what my goal is to share them with the group that I do lead at, I'm president at Fort Belvoir Home Educators here in Northern Virginia. And so I do plan on reaching homeschoolers that way. Through like just like me, the magazine was like something like I remember you get in bed, you fall asleep quickly, but you get in bed and you want to read that article that you didn't get to read because your day is so long and busy. And I remember, so I just want others to have that same experience and that same encouragement. So
I love that. And the thing with the old schoolhouse is there's so many resources. So having people like you, to point people to certain ones that may have touched you or blessed you, that can just help, people who need that get it into their hands.
exactly, exactly, definitely, I agree.
So would you mind sharing with us maybe a favorite resource that you have from the old schoolhouse?
Yeah, so the schoolhouse teachers actually, yes. And I do intend to actually go back and use even more of that, but I do know that we have used that. What I love is for a military family moving around constantly, it's a consistency, right? It's an online resource. You can educate your children and it can go with you wherever you are.
Mhm.
It doesn't even matter whether you're overseas, the timeline, whether you're on Eastern Standard Time or if you're overseas in Germany or some places like that, you have that resource. And so that's actually my favorite. Well, I should say actually the magazine is my favorite, but then the schoolhouse teachers is my second favorite because I still love the magazine.
Yes, there's just something about that magazine.
Yes, yes,
I
yes.
love getting it
It's
in the mail that yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. It's so full of like the articles are not fluff.
Yeah,
People pour their heart into the articles, and there's meat in there, and every article meets you like at a deep place, right? It
right.
really has a lot. It's not just a quick article that someone has written. People are pouring out their heart in the articles, and so um, it's just full of encouragement. So that's actually my favorite. So
I love it. Before we get into the next question that we have, I would love if you could just share with us um, about how you reach military families, um, and what advice you would maybe have for a military family, not necessarily schoolhouse ambassadors related, but just some encouragement that you might have for a homeschooling military family.
yes, okay. So how do I reach military homeschoolers? Well, I wear a couple of hats in that process. So I reach military homeschoolers in this age in 2023. The first way I reach them is social media. There are several military homeschool groups, and I am a member of most of them. And I try to be an encouraging voice in those groups, answering questions. Military homeschoolers, because of the constant relocation, we want to know what's the law of this new place where we're going to be living, and is there a homeschool support group on the installation there? And if not, where are my military homeschoolers, where are my people, right? And so, and it's not that we don't join non-military groups, or it's not that we don't join civilian, what we call civilian groups, we do, but there's something about the familiarity of being with military homeschoolers, because we understand everything. And I always joke and say, but it's so true, we understand all the military acronyms without having to explain ourselves. So yes.
I love that. And you had mentioned also that you have, is it a co-op that you have in the Virginia Beach area? Could you tell us how you help in helping with that group?
Yeah, well, it's not in Virginia Beach, but you're right with the Virginia Beach piece. And my history is that when we lived in Virginia Beach from 2004 to 2010, around in 2005, I started the Military Christian Homeschool Support Group, and I led it for about 5 years until we got orders over to Naples, Italy. And I passed it on to two moms who co-led it. It's not still in existence the way it was, and that's kind of part of the challenge of military groups, is like we get orders and the leadership, you leave and there may not be a spouse that will take over the group, right?
Right.
But there is something still there in kind of almost the same. But what I do now is in Northern Virginia,
That's
and
right.
it's Fort Belvoir Home Educator, so I'm president there. And we've been here in this area since October 2016. My husband
Wow.
retired December 1, was a year after the 34 years that you read about in my bio. And so we've been living here. And so we are planted here. God has us
Mhm.
here. Um, and so I lead that group, and it's a large military group, and we're doing some really good things. We held on through COVID, and we're coming out, and we're seeing ourselves go back up to to higher numbers of membership and programs being able to get started. So I'm excited about where we're going in that group. Yeah,
That is wonderful.
yeah.
Do you happen to have any events or activities in your area that you would like to talk about that might be coming up soon?
Well, we just started the only homeschool 4-H in Northern Virginia. So,
Awesome.
yeah, and we partnered, it's under Fairfax County 4-H. And I think Virginia Tech is like the headquarters for 4-H for the state
Mhm.
of Virginia. And so we just started that. We're really excited about that. I'll be doing like leadership and civic engagement, which is one of my passions.
Wow.
I used to teach that online to about 10 homeschoolers for the past 2 years.
Wow.
And so we're going to do that. And, or actually, that's already started, the 4-H, and it's Fort Belvoir 4-H. So it's not limited to just the members of our support group. It's open to military and Department of Defense homeschoolers in the area. So that is really kicked off quite a bit. Um, and the other thing is not specifically in our area as much as I'm excited to support the European Homeschool Conference in Edelweiss
Wow.
in Garmisch. So I'll be going there in May to speak
Aw.
on high school, but I'm going there with the other hat I wear with HSLDA. But I'm going there as me, also a military homeschooler, right, to encourage my fellow military homeschoolers, and I'm excited about that. So it's not Northern Virginia, but it's something that I wanted to make sure I did get a chance. If I had a chance to mention it, definitely.
That is wonderful. And we didn't mention earlier about your involvement with HSLDA. Would you mind just tapping into that just for a little bit for our viewers?
Yeah, I will definitely. So I started with HSLDA as a high school educational consultant in September 2020, and but obviously with my military experience, I eventually began to do more and more outreach to our military community, and so as a result, I am now I'm completely military community outreach. I no longer do high school consulting, although obviously I can. I still I've graduated to Florida College. So I still, the knowledge is there, but my position actually is now completely over in military outreach. And so I created the military outreach program for HSLDA. And so it has several
Wow.
facets. And so we have a military Facebook page for HSLDA military families. We
Mm.
have Facebook Lives we do on a monthly basis. We're getting ready to do one on navigating TRICARE tomorrow, and we support the European Homeschool Conference. I have gone to Quantico to work with Quantico homeschoolers, and I do things with school liaison officers all over the world. The Air Force had me come down and train in San Antonio in September, about 75 school liaison officers who came in from all over the world for their summit, and all of them have questions about homeschooling and how to help the military connected student on their installation. So in short, I wear that hat. It's busy and it's growing, and but it's still completely all of me, and it's all supporting my military homeschool moms, which I just love. I'm a passionate advocate of military families anyway, so um, and so it just kind of all merges together.
So, for those of you watching, if you are a military family, then definitely, get connected with Natalie for sure. And,
Yes.
anybody watching, any homeschooler, what you can do is you can go to schoolhouseconnect.com. I'll have the link below. Yes, schoolhouseconnect.com. And you can check the map and you can look for somebody in your area. So you can get connected with them, give them a call, email them, see what type of support group is available in your area, or um, you know, like in the case of military
Exactly.
families, you can find out, you can connect with Natalie for that. And I am just so thankful that we have these resources. So nobody needs to be an island unto themselves. Nobody needs to be
No,
homeschooling themselves. There is support. We
there's
have
support.
people out there like Natalie, and I'm so thankful for that. I'm so thankful
Thank
for
you.
all that you do for the homeschooling community, not just for Schoolhouse, for the old schoolhouse, but for the homeschooling community at large. And we're just so thankful for people like you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. And I just love, like I said, toss. I call it toss, TOS, toss. So I just love, so I'm excited to even be here able to share and just, encourage. So
Well, thank you so much for all of your encouraging words. Thank you for joining me. And we will see you next time for another Homeschool Live.